Internet and technical issue. Okay, so internet issue means power cut was there. So due to that, I don't have that internet connection. So that was the reason I didn't get a session or I didn't take a session on yesterday. Okay, so now we will cover those topics. What are the topics I have to done? We will cover those today. Okay, so not an issue. Like, okay, yeah. No, okay. So guys, in the previous session, what we have done. So I think like 1 second, I will just recall that. Bring core annotations in that, like I think we have created some DDO package. Like okay, so bird and cow we have created, right? And then we try to create an object for bird, and we try to I like I think I have explained you to create an object of a cow, and I given a task for you guys to create a object for the bird, right? So you I hope you guys got an output for that. I think so. This is like okay. So for cow, come on now. Okay, so I think like for cow, I have created a object. Yeah, so we have created and invoked the print method. I think similar for bird also I have shown. I hope you got to know now with respect to like using the annotation how to do it. Okay, so now we need to understand here like how to inject some information to that particular variable. Okay, suppose in my classes, if I have a values or a variables, how to inject that. Okay, to now let us understand that what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new class. Okay, so I'm going to create a new class. The class name, what I'm going to create, the class name I'm going to create class. Okay, let me create employee class under my DDO. Click finish. Okay, so let me create a employee on sec. Just give me a second, guys. Yeah. So now let me get class called employee, and let me have the fields like employee name. Okay. So now I'm going to create a fields like wait, string name for the employee. Okay. And okay, so then let me give a salary. So the salary of the employee. Okay. Yeah. So now uh, okay, so now let me go with these two information only. Okay, and I'm going to create a method in this class. Okay, so I'm going to create a public method. Let it be wide only, and the method name I'm going to give it as display. Okay, so display, and here I will add simple SOP statement. One is to display the employee name. Okay, so employee name equals to what will be the name in my class. Okay, so for this name variable, what is the value I'm going to set? That will be displayed. Okay, so similarly, let me go for add one more SOP statement. Okay, so now let me add one more SOP statement and display instead of name. Now I will change to salary. Okay, and the variable name also. Okay, so I will change to salary. Now I need to have some values. Okay, so like I need to inform my AOC container. Okay, so after like not after creating the object. Okay, so while creating the object, okay, so it must add some details. Okay, so it must add some details of the employee and the salary. So I need to inform or while whenever I'm going to create an object at the time. So after creating an object, so the reference variable has to be injected some values. For that, our reference variable I can reference variable has to be have some information. So for that, what we can do? Okay, so here we can go for making use of an annotation, something called as value. Okay, so value annotation from the org.springframework.beans.factory.annotation. Okay, so from this package we have a annotation like value. Just import that. Okay, so then so here yeah. So after that, I need to open a flower bracket and use a attribute called value. Okay, and what is the value I need to inject? Okay, so I need to inject a name. What I'm going to give? Okay, so I'm going to give the name of this employee as Preeti. Okay, so I'm going to give the name of the employee as Preeti, and I need to inject the or I need to have so or I need to give some salary for Preeti. Okay, so for that, what I'm going to do is again I'm going to make use of this value attribute. Okay, like, okay, so again I'm going to use the value attribute, sorry, value annotation, and then inside that like I will be using again value attribute, and I'm going to set the value of uh, sorry, I'm going to set the salary of Preeti. Okay, so Preeti's salary is I'm going to give Preeti's salary. Okay, so 45,000 double, right? Okay, so this will be the Preeti's salary. Okay, now yeah, so now what I'm going to do is let me create one more class. Okay, so let's similarly test B how I have created. So similarly, I will go for create a one more class called test C. Okay, so I'm going to create a one more class called class test C. Okay, and let me have a main method. And now in this class, let us try to create an object for the employee. Okay, I don't want to pass the name as completely this one. Okay, so I need to use a reference variable. I need to give a reference variable. Okay, so whenever my Spring IOC container is going to create an object for this particular employee class, it must use a reference variable. Okay, so it must use a reference variable called EMP. Okay, so let us go with like it must use a reference variable called EMP. Now I need to inform. Okay, so I need to inform. Okay, so my IOC container to whenever I'm going to run the programs. So create object for this particular class. To inform that we have an annotation something called as at the rate component. Okay, so we can just make use of this annotation to inform that. Okay, so if I use this component annotation, what happens is simple. So whenever the Spring IOC, okay, so or whenever we are going to run our project, the Spring IOC will check. Okay, so first it will check for the base package. What is the base package user has been given? Okay, now based on that, okay, so user has given a base package this one. Okay, so now under this, how many classes are there? Okay, so what are the classes we have declared with the annotation component that will be called technically called as component classes. So it will identify how many component classes are there. Then okay, so once the it is going to identify all the classes, then it is going to create one by one for object for that particular component classes. Okay, so for that particular component classes, sorry, it is going to create an object, and it is going to reference it is going to use a reference variable and referred by that object, and it will hold that in the IOC container. So now by default the reference variable will be, so for example for employee the default reference variable will be like this. Okay, so so what are the class name you are given, So all the class name will be in the lowercase. All the alphabets of a class name will be lowercase. For example, for this employee, the reference variable will be the reference variable will be em. This will be the reference variable. It is going to make use of it. Okay, so I will show. Let me first create with that reference variable, and then let us go for change and see. Okay, so what I've done in the previous session. Okay, application context we have used it. Okay, so application context and application context equal to new object of class path XML context. Okay, so where we need to pass my the configuration file location. The configuration file must be present under the src main Java, guys. Okay, so it must be present under the src main Java, and the file name I have given as my spring XML. Okay, so now let me pass that configuration name. What is the name I'm going to pass? The file name is my spring dot xml. Okay, then let me use this. Okay, so once that is done, okay, then using this application context, I'm going to invoke a method called get beans. Okay, so I'm going to invoke a method called get beans by passing the uh, reference variable. Okay, so I'm going to pass the reference variable for that bean. Okay, now this I said, okay, so this will be the reference variable will be referred for my employee object. Okay, so now let me try to get that object from this. I'm going to use an okay, so employee emp equal to, so now here I need to go for downcasting. The reason why I am going for the downcasting is simple. We know that getBean method is going to return me an object. Okay, so it is going to return me the object. Okay, so they have written a generalized method. So now we need to go with the specific. So that is the reason I'm just using this employee, or I'm just going for the downcasting. Okay, now once that is done, let me use this reference variable as emp and invoke the display method. Okay, now let us see whether I'm going to receive or whether yeah, so whether I'm going to receive the name as Preeti and salary as 45,000. I'm running this program. Yeah, I'm getting okay. So employee name is Preeti and the salary is 45,000. So what is happening internally? Whenever my Spring IOC container is going to create a object for this particular employee class. Okay, so whenever my Spring IOC container is going to create an object for this particular employee class, it is going to first it is going to create an object. Then it is going to set the value for name attribute as Preeti, and for salary it is going to set the value as 45,000. Okay, so while declaration of the variable, it is going to initialize the variable also. Okay, so this is what happens now in this example. And I said I don't want to use this employee. Okay, so reference variable. I need to use a reference variable as emp only. Okay, so I need to use a reference variable as emp only. Now let me use here employee. Okay, so now let me use this here employee. But I whenever I need to, so whenever my IOC is going to create a employee class object, I want that object to be referred by a reference variable called as emp. Okay, to inform that, to make or to inform my IOC container. Okay, so whenever you are going to create an object for this particular employee class, so once you created the object, you need to use a reference variable called as emp. Okay, to inform that we have an annotation. Okay, sorry, we have an attribute on the component called value, and here I can pass the value as emp. Okay, so then whenever my IOC container is going to create an object for this particular employee class, it is going to use a reference variable called emp. Okay, so now let us try to get that. I'm going to run this program. Yeah, I'm getting the output. Okay, the why I'm getting, okay, so I'm asking my application context. Okay, so check whether in the container, do you have any object which is referred by this reference variable called as emp. Okay, if it is there, just return me. Okay, so if it is there, just return me. Okay, so it is going to return me the employee object only. Okay, so it is going to return me the employee object. Okay, so that how we can get to know. Okay, so we can get to know by invoking this display method. Okay, so if it is going to return me the employee object only, that is the reason I'm getting the employee details like Preeti. Name is Preeti and salary is 45,000. Okay, so this is one way of initializing the values for my variables, guys, at the time of object creation. Okay, so use, okay, so yeah, and now to give the reference variable. Okay, so this is the attribute. Okay, on the component annotation, we have an attribute called as value. We can give a reference variable for that particular class. So try to execute and let me know. Okay, so execute and see and let me know. Then I will go with the another two steps are there. Okay, so one is constructor injection and setter injection is there. Okay, so we will see that. Then we can go for the uh, Spring Boot framework. Okay, so quickly execute and let me know, guys. Once you have done executed, just drop a message as done. Then I will continue with the next topic.